Hey, Coach, so glad you found us on YouTube. I have been coaching for 30 years, so I know how many great resources there are out there. I tried to bring them together at teachhoops.com. Let me help you become a better basketball coach. All sorts of great resources on there. And even the best part is the community, the one-on-one calls with me, office hours, you name it. You know, I've been there. You can see behind all the balls. You can see a couple of my players have played in the NBA. I am here to help. I am here to serve. So go over and check it out. Click above, down below, teachhoops.com. Enjoy the video.
Episode 99. Oh my gosh. 100 is next week, Coach.
I'm excited.
It's 100. I didn't think we'd get to 100.
I don't know. Maybe.
I hope people are listening. If you're listening, subscribe. And, you know, I love talking to Jake once a month, but hopefully you're listening. I think you are. All right. Before we jump in, I'd like to give a big shout out to our sponsors. First of all, Dr. Dish. If you haven't bought, I own two. If you don't own one, it's silly. We were talking a couple of weeks ago about fundraising. I understand it's a big ticket item, and the thing is they'll work with you with that. They'll do financing, half up front, half over, that kind of stuff. So they'll work with you. They understand what the world we're working in. So mention Coach Unplugged. They give you $350 off every version but the home one. So that's the first thing. Second thing is make sure you go over and join teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. I'm hopefully sending my son off to college. So let's hope. And it also allows us to keep the lights on here. And, this costs me money every month to put up. And this is not a zero. I'm not on Anchor where it's just free. I pay for services. I pay for edit. I do all sorts of stuff. So anyway, if you'd like to give back, that's a great way to do it. Also, you could subscribe and leave a review. And then the last thing is it's the middle of July, and you're maybe getting paid right now, but maybe you're not getting paid right now. teachersidegig.com or the Teacher Side Gig podcast would be a great one to go over and listen to. It's going to be interviews. It's not like if you've got a side gig and you want to talk to me about it, you can go over to the website, teachersidegig.com, or you can email me at steve@teachhoops.com. If you've got an interesting one. I'm not selling anything at this point. I'm just trying to help teachers figure out their side gig. And I've got my feelings on it and some of those things that I'm going to share. Time for money is not necessarily the long-term play, like tutoring, driving Uber. It can be a short-term play, but I'm hopefully for the long-term play, you're coming up with something that's going to bring in more money over the long term, because you only have a finite amount of time, and if you're paying money for time, I used to tutor a long time ago, and I'd tutor for like 6-7 hours on a Sunday, and I could only make so much money. I could only literally make so much money because there's only so many hours in a day. So you can only make so much because you can't tutor. You tutor in one kid, you get paid this month for this 1 hour. So you really got to think about that. So come over, listen, Teacher Side Gig podcast, type it in, leave a review. If you leave a review, I will respond to you. Oh my goodness, especially if you write one out. Okay. So what's this week? Episode 99.
99. So we're in mid-July, and I think that we talked about that we're at to the point now is hopefully really starting thinking about our first attempts of looking at X's and O's. So so what are your first attempts when thinking about the season? What are your deep dives? Like really, where do you first start? How do you approach it?
This is literally on a piece of paper. I'll draw a big X and I'll go strengths and I'll go weaknesses, and I'll start listing kids and I'll start listing their strengths and their weaknesses, because then I can figure out what I can do offensively.
Do you do that by yourself?
I do. I initially do it by myself, and then I have my staff do it, and then we come back together
and see what you guys come up with.
We do. If you want to listen to another podcast, there's a podcast right now on Freakonomics, and they do it on meetings. I hate bad meetings.
Oh, I do too.
They're horrible. There's a whole subculture on meetings. Anyway, you should all go listen to that podcast at some point, but it's very intriguing. you need to go listen to that. Anyway, I will come back to the coaches and kind of talk to them about how what we're going to do and kind of moving forward with strengths and weaknesses. And then we'll try to narrow that list down to 3 or 4 strengths and 3 or 4 weaknesses, and then figure out if we have to change offensively and defensively. I'm going to tell you something we've already started to do. We have 2 columns now. We have the 2021 season and we have the 21-22 season. Like, because I'm not sure what next season is going to look like. The statistician in me doesn't think it's going to be normal. Might be shortened, might be whatever, you know. So we're actually mapping out the next 2 years. What is my team going to look like here? What is my team going to look like here? That way we can kind of hopefully pivot faster moving forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I look at the players holistically. You know, I look at each of the players, their strengths and weaknesses, and you start to build commonalities of where you want to go. So, you know, strong shooting, not so strong shooting, you know, and you kind of look at, all right, what are our strengths? I mean, very similar process. You know, and then I just start thinking about just different ways in which, you know, how I can best, you know, get these guys ready to play. So I think about in the context of, you know, what are they going to be? Then I look at like barriers, like how is this group as a group? Every group is different. Like, how are you going to reach them?
That's a good point. I muted my mic there. Coach saw me talking and
I was like, what was going on?
I was telling my daughter to go feed the dogs and let them out.
Okay.
But
I
anyway,
was like, could you not hear me?
I could hear you.
Okay.
So I agree. I think that building that relationship part is really important. Yeah, I mean, and groups have different personalities. That's why we've tried to map out, because next year's team and the team after will be different personality wise.
Yeah, and then like I start thinking about, you know, the other opponents that we're going to play, what we're going to need to be able to do and how we're going to set that up. You know, how are we going to deal with if we can't shoot and teams decide to zone us all year? What are we going to do? You know, or if we're going to be a run and gun team, what are we going to do when we can't run and gun anymore? Like, I start thinking about the opposition of like how our team's going to try to beat me versus what I'm going to do to them sometimes. I think that's really important too, to think about, all right, if this is our team, how our team's going to try to beat us as well.
Right. Oh, I think that's why I try to do the 2 columns, because that will be our weaknesses. People are going to try to exploit our weaknesses. And then, you know, I think that's when it's those pivots. It's those small little pivots.
Then like, I think you look at your younger teams and you start thinking about where are their gaps too. Like, cause if you're like a JV or freshman coach and this team really struggles with free throw shooting based on the data last year, that should be that JV's coach responsibility to really focus on free throw shooting in that season too, because they have more time for skill development, because they're not working as much as preparing for the next opponent. They're developing for the next step. So like, I also think that, being careful is like what position you are as a coach. So if you're a freshman or JV coach, you're really thinking about what skill sets can I give them that they don't have for the big time, you know?
Right.
And so what you're thinking about might be a little bit different depending on what age group you coach as well.
No, I think that's really important as far as breaking that down. What else, Coach? Anything else? I mean, those are the big things. I try to think big picture rather than finite in July.
Right.
Like now I'm thinking, and then I will, because to be honest with you, we're not diving too deep in right now, because we're going to wait and see what it looks like in August and September.
And then I start looking at like a base offense would probably be my next step, because your defense is always you run man, and either you run push baseline or you push middle, you know, you got pack or you got steer kind of style. So I don't really look at defenses yet. I kind of look at my base offenses, and then I stick with man throughout the summer. If people are playing this summer, you know, I just stick with man mostly in the summer, because I just want them to keep going with those principles, so I don't have to teach that so much in the fall. And then I just start to think about base offense, and then how do I build around that base offense?
Yeah, I think offense is where we spend a lot of time, but then we'll tweak, like we like these out of bounds plays.
Yep.
We liked how practice was structured. We do this kind of stuff. That's why I've been talking to coaches for teachhoops.com for my course in there. Is I just want people to kind of think about how they practice plan. Because that's your lesson plan, to be honest with you. That's one of the most important things you do,
Right. And it makes sense because offense takes longer to learn and do than defense does. So you should really spend a lot of the time building your offense to get to the next point. Because you'll learn when you're coaching in the season, defense picks up a lot faster. You can add more to your defensive arsenal than your offensive arsenal. So
right. I agree. All right. What's our
I have my notes right here. What are your triggers for taking a player out right away?
Well, effort is definitely one. Depends on where it is in the season. Shot selection is one. Turning the ball over. If you turn the ball over a couple of times, you're coming out, especially if it's in a short period of time. So that's another quick trigger for me is turnovers. It's the reason my son played a lot this year because he never turned the ball over. And then,
are you talking like stupid turnovers, like just deliberately throwing the ball away? Because sometimes kids they'll try to feed the post and it's a good attempt and it gets tipped.
Yeah, those aren't as big. But if you have 2 or 3 turnovers in 5 or 6 possessions, you're out like fast. I can't get you out fast. And I've there was a couple of times that happened with a couple of my players this year. It was like, I couldn't get you out fast enough. And then shot selection has never really been a problem in my program because we have enough communication with that. So I would think turnovers and effort are the big ones that will get you. Effort is like,
yeah, and a lot of things too is like it depends on what time of what part of the game you're in too. Like one thing that drives me nuts is stupid fouls, especially in late games. Stupid fouls that should not happen is definitely one. Effort is definitely, and then sometimes body language. If a kid is being disrespectful and looking at me and not paying attention, their butt's out. I mean, there's been times where I try to get a kid that maybe didn't start that day or they've been sitting a while and I call them up and they're taking forever to get off the bench. They don't even, that's a trigger for me. You can go sit your butt back down.
Right. You're not ready. Yeah.
You're not ready.
Yeah. You're not ready.
Yeah. So like, I'm a huge person about body language. I think, that's my trigger. And one of my biggest triggers is body language. I think I'm a huge person on that. I think that it shows, you can really show that you're into it or not into it just based on your body language. So I could just tell, like I could tell sometimes when kids walk into the classroom, like, ooh, this is not going to be a good day just based on your body language. Like, let's step back outside the door and let's try that over again. They look at me like I'm crazy, but like because your body language determines how well you're going to play that day. I truly believe that.
Enthusiasm. It's like, enthusiasm is like one of the most important qualities you have in everything, in every aspect of your life. You can make up for deficiencies if you've got enthusiasm. And I think kids don't have that sometimes.
And the hard thing too is that body language people can see, and it makes your program look like garbage. So it makes you look like garbage against the opponent, garbage with your teammates, garbage with the fans. It just makes you look bad, which then triggers me, and I can't stand it. Body language shoots for me. I don't normally go on tangents like you do. So
you don't. I appreciate that. All right. Until next week, Coach.
Yeah, 100 next week.
All right, 100.
Hey, Coach, I'm glad you enjoy that. Let me know how I can help you become a better basketball coach, win some championships like this, win some rings like that. Let me know how I can help you. Doesn't matter what level you're at. I have been there. I've experienced it. Let me help you. Teachhoops.com is one way that we can help you do that.